sure if everybody's familiar with the source of that minhag is to get up. And it has a lot of other customs even within food, kind of, to borrow a term, a custom. Like they have, what are the foods that we eat 3 times a year?
That we eat 3 times a year?
Only 3 times a year. No.
Oh, that we eat 3?
One same food that's eaten 3 times a year. That is, Shana Rabbah, Shana Rabbah. Erev Yom Kippur, you have kreplach. That's like...
Who?
Kreplach. That's like pierogin, right? That what it is? Pierogies? Kreplach. Kreplach is
like
Ashkenazi
wontons,
food.
like
It's like wontons, right? Covered up. The dough covers the meat. The dough covers the meat.
Sorry, don't do it.
Okay. Shana Rabbah, we also, the Ashkenazim eat the same thing, Shana Rabbah. Those, Erev Yom Kippur, which is the day of forgiveness, and day of Shana Rabbah again, the day of forgiveness, and Yom Purim, which is the Arizal called it Yom Kippurim. We also have Purim. Right. We also have kreplach on on that day as well. See it? Closer to bed. It's okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So in any event, see, there's also some kind of a covering up, a mask, costume on some level. With the food, everything's kind of covered up. What is that all about? So there's various, multiple different opinions that talk about, maybe they're all true, maybe none of them are true, but there are reasons given for that. And obviously the most obvious thing is what? Surely is that the miracle of Purim supposedly was Hester, it was hidden, it was done derech hateva. That's why Hashem's name is not mentioned in all of the Megillah, correct? It's omitted from the Megillah in a sense because we don't see Hashem's name. It looks like kind of a political coup that took place, right? That's what it looks like. However, we know that that's the biggest, greatest thing about HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Kavod Hashem, which means the honor of God, the glory of God, is Haster Dover. Things are hidden. Actually, what's phenomenal about this is that Esther's name was what? Esther. Hidden. Everything about it is about hidden. It's a hidden miracle, and to recognize Hashem, God, throughout miracles that happen to us, and observe that, see it, feel comfortable with it, and direct your finger to it's God that's doing this. It's not all these other mediums that we think happen. It's totally just HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, let me just share with you a point about what the Alshich says on one of the worst times in Jewish history. For me, it's very difficult to measure. Like, wasn't this the worst time? Wasn't that the worst time? I don't know. I don't know what the worst time is. Hitler? Was it Mabul? Was it Mitzrayim? I don't know. The closest one that we really recently experienced, that we have to remember is obviously we still have people's hands with numbers on them, is the Holocaust. Largest number of Jews, I don't know how many Jews died in Mitzrayim. It doesn't say exactly how many Jews died, but we know that 6 million, maybe 6,013,000 died by the Germans, right? The 13 in the Munich fair, right? How many people died in the Munich? 13?
14 maybe.
14, so it was 6.
Oh, the Olympians.
Right, the Olympics. So how many Israelis were there? I think it was 614, 613. So but at least that many people killed, 6 million and 14 that were killed that time. In any event...
There's a whole movie on that.
In any event, so... that particular era we're more sensitive to, and that's an emotional issue. The sensitivity that we have towards particular events it's usually always an emotional issue. I'm going to sidetrack for a second and get back to this. When somebody asks you, for example, how do we deal with the evil in the world? Why doesn't Hashem stop the evil? And that probably is the most popular question, or infamous question, that even distracted many Orthodox committed Jews from remaining committed. There's a book that I have, it's called Why I Became an Atheist. And in this book, he says, I became an atheist because evil is so predominant in the world that I can't imagine that God would allow it to happen if there existed a God. So there's a few responses to that.
Look at all the good.
And that's, how they're going to deal with all the good. How they will deal with all the good in the world. So the first step by step to deal with this question for yourself in the future, is to deal with it in an organized fashion. One is, number one, that is not an intellectual question, it's an emotional question. And they respond to that, what? What do you mean? It's a very intellectual question. What are you talking about? Nobody wants to sound like some bubby from Varsha crying about some, her lot in life and God forbid the pain that she suffered. You say, I'll tell you why it's an emotional question. Let me ask you. Millions of Jews died in Egypt. Did you say before this Holocaust that I'm out of here because God didn't take off yarmulke and throw it out the window and say goodbye, I'm out of here? Because that's something more emotional to you. It's closer to you. It's proximity.
We identify with it because it was in that time. We still have
remnants of right. We still have the anti-Semitism that goes around. It all reminds us of that period of time. So, therefore, hence, it's an intellectual question, compounded by the fact, which Ellie pointed out. Nobody, I haven't heard yet. Maybe you've heard it. Somebody say, "Okay, I'm not a believer, but I see now that my stocks went up all the way up, flying up last month. For positive, 100% God exists, no question about it. For some reason, nobody does that. They only do it when some evil in the world. Good. They don't say, "Proof positive is a God." I just made now $14 million stock market. God exists. So, obviously, that is not an intellectual; it's an emotional question. So then, if it's an emotional question, then we have to look at the balance, the various things, what emotions we feel. Like I said, the good things that happen and everything else. It's only an emotional question. So, the person who likes to become one of these deniers of the omnipotence and omniscience of God in this world has a problem because he has no one to complain to. He has no one to say, I'm blaming God, but no God. So now, okay, so there's no God. So then what's your problem? There's no God, then there's no problem. But then I had this once an interaction with an atheist, with somebody who claimed to be an atheist. I didn't believe in an atheist. And there are some people that you believe, like this guy wrote a book about atheism. Or like even, I'm sorry, shut this off. Like this fellow who Christopher Hitchens, that really constantly talking about, his pride in being an atheist. So Eric Wilson describes his atheism. He says, it's amazing to watch how some atheists are so obsessed with the God they don't believe in. Like, sometimes if you don't believe in something, you just don't talk about it. God, it's not relevant. It becomes irrelevant to you. But somehow it's so relevant to them that it's hard to believe that they really don't believe in God. It's hard to accept that.
It's funny because a lot of times when this person's in a very low point of his life, that's when he finds God. See, sometimes when a person has so many good things going for them, they forget, how they obtained all these things. They think it's them. They think, oh, I'm so great, I'm so welcome to it.
Right.
Hashem is going to show you, no, it's not you, and you're not so great, and he can just take it the same way he gives it. And that's when people start davening more and chuckling and begging, when they have Messiah. So even in dark times, sometimes that's when a person rather finds the Eibishter. As a Yid, we have that foundation,
So we're going to talk about a little bit in a certain sense about certain things about anti-Semitism and there is a Shakespeare wrote some things that I want to, if you don't mind me telling you this. Of course, it's about Torah, but Shakespeare is not Torah's emes, but it's Chachma. The Gemara mentions says in Eicha Chachma about Goyim Tam, and you believe the wisdom of the nations. It doesn't say that it's eternal wisdom solely, but it's wisdom. And you believe in the wisdom of the Goyim, but Torah is eternal wisdom, and that's not eternal wisdom.
Right.
So there's a famous line in one of the Shakespeare's plays. It says, "All the world is stage, all the men and women are plays. They have their exits and entrances, and they play many parts." That's what he says. Now, if I were to ask you a question, in this theater of this world's existence, aren't we all behind the mask? Don't we all cover our real persona?
Facade.
We live the life of facade. We have a divided self on some level. Don't we all, every person? Do we delight in delaying the part, in playing the part? Do we delight in playing the part we want to have and don't have? Like sometimes we say, okay, I'm going to act out my fantasy of being Superman and put it on, right? So you delight in the part of playing Superman, but you're not Superman. You have one day to act that thing and you can dress up like Superman. If you want to be some other, dressed up like they got wealthy, have a pipe and have these cars and driving you around and everything, limousines driving around. So you act out the part. We act out of grown children, act out our part. We want to have, we don't have. We're not billionaires, we're not millionaires. Isn't the mask we hide behind that the opiate that carries us through our diurnal and nocturnal responsibilities, that is what does it. Living the dream, the fantasy, the imagination carries us. It's so powerful, right?
Yeah, the what if.
What if, right? And so anyway, I could just have that feeling covering who we really are, sense it, in real sense. Doesn't our bodies mask our soul? Not always what you ask for is what the neshama is asking for. Sometimes you say to yourself, you feel conflict and you feel, I just feel, I want this. But then you start buying, you're thinking, I don't want it. Where does it come from? That comes from the soul screaming that you don't want it. You don't want it. Feed me, feed my neshama. And the body say, feed me.
See, it's a horror opening,
And I want me to be fed now, faster than the other neshamas now. Years ago, I think I told you a story. I was working at a Barnes & Noble, where I have kind of a little bit Spanish in Barnes & Noble. I know some people in Barnes & Noble. So it's amazing how this opportunity to find Yidden that they talk,
more secular Jews.
Yeah, a lot of them, because they're surprised by certain revelations that we talk about and are uncovered in our conversation.
Right.
So anyway, so somebody's walking out of Barnes & Noble with a T-shirt. On the T-shirt, it's written as follows: instant gratification is not instant enough. Now, how does it play out in the real world in a practical sense? It shows us how babyish or childish we are, immature, spiritually, in any other way. There are two guys in an office. There are 7 fax machines. 5 of them were changed, and 2 of them remain the old. So the five being used up. One of them using one of the 5 new ones. The other was sitting right next to him with the other 2 next to the other 2, and he was using each of them using a fax machine. So the one with the new fax machine says, "My fax machine goes in 6 seconds." He says, "Yeah, no, mine takes 8 seconds." And I can't believe it. It becomes a whole discussion about the 8 second fax and 5 second. Like the now is, I want mine now to be faster than your now.
Right. Up until now, it was good.
No, it was now. You would say to somebody, it's now, but now it's not now enough. It's not now enough because mine takes 8, yours takes 5. So I have to have a 5 second. I'll throw this out the window. I'll just dump it. I'll get one for 5 seconds.
And then the next
we
month,
forgot.
one comes out
We
4
forgot.
seconds.
Like 7 years ago, people took 3 weeks to get a letter. And it went overseas, right? Or 20 years, or whatever it was. I mean, you just forgot. It wasn't long ago. But that is what we. Instant gratification is such a part of our illness.
So we feel entitled.
We feel entitled, but we also feel like there's need, the want. Now I need it. Need. That need is a word which is very punishing. The word need. I need something, and we confuse the need with wants.
Right.
And the immediacy of our gratification is also something that really shows a certain kind of immaturity in our life. Okay, so. Doesn't our bodies really mask our neshamas? Because our neshamas scream for one thing. I want what's good for me. I want what's healthy for me. The neshama says, don't rush. Just do it. Think about what you're doing. Think about it thoroughly. And the body says, no. Now, don't think. Just get it down. Before you swallow, go for the next hot dog. It means I'm talking about temptation, right? Okay. The problem is not the world. The problem is us. Right? The world is not a problem per se. It's us. When people say that the world is crazy, what they really mean is people are crazy. People are turned upside down.
There's a lot more availability out there.
But you know what? That kind of deferring the problem to the world is kind of soothing. You know, it's not. No, human beings are great. Just it's something. We don't even think of what it was saying.
Sign of the times.
I'll tell you. I gave a class yesterday at the lecture all the way in Bucks County, and it was amazing how when you pin people to the wall with a question to translate a word, they also become flustered, and perhaps they would concede that they really don't know what that word's experience is. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Eric Hoffer used to say, Eric Hoffer was a longshoreman that was blind till the age of 15. I don't know if you know this. He's a famous writer, author, philosopher, and so on and so forth. Eric Hoffer lived in San Francisco. He was a longshoreman that was blind. For some strange reason, after 15, he was able to see. And his appetite for reading kind of grew and grew and grew, and he wrote multiple books. Eric Hoffer. He's famous. He's famous. Eric Hoffer. You go into the world of secular people, and Eric Hoffer, a person like, All right. Eric Hoffer said, we can win the world only by overcoming ourselves. There's profundity to it. We can win the world by overcoming ourselves. it's like one person at a time kind of thing. With the eyeglass or one eye at a time, or whatever that used to be like one. Anyway, so we win the world by just ourselves, overcoming ourselves. Each one of us works on ourselves, and Tikkun Olam starts with each individual person trying to fix himself. That's how then it becomes a collective Olam that's being fixed. Some people would call Purim a Jewish Halloween, with all the costumes and everything else. We'll spare ourselves a nonsensical question that deal with it. It's not even Jewish Halloween. I was watching a story I remember on the east side that the Jews were going, a lot of Jews in my neighborhood were going to Shul, the Raja Yeshiva, to Kippur davening, and some undesirable looking across the street, and they said, "Hey man, look at these Jewish guys have a big basketball game tonight." So the black suits with the white sneakers. It was like a big, a real tournament going on, basketball tournament, So people see things and. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, there's a whole Megillah we read in Purim describing what type of fierce hate the Jews encountered and dealt with. Fierce hate. It wasn't just hate it wasn't caged hate. It was hate that was let loose. Hate that totally let loose, right? Right, Yanni? Was the whole story of the Megillah. Anti-Semitism became synonymous with the word Haman. Haman, the author of it, in a big way, Amalek, but that's really where it comes from. When the Jew encounters hate, disdain, or discontent, or discomfort, she get lost in some kind of confusion. What's going on? What do I do? I can't take people screaming at Jew and make fun, and the newspapers have articles about Jews and Jews. There's a response that the blogs, God forbid, have, and then a response that the Torah Jew has. And then, compounded with that, when the hate is expressed in an uncorked contempt, it really becomes scary. It's like no boundaries to what people could do. If anything, that does the Jew. The Jew, at that point, faces an assortment of choices. You have a guy idea what the two choices are? Okay? Okay, so the choices are, that will determine his or her happiness, his or her children's happiness, his or her values. And the choices are to escape the hatred by running into, metaphorically, the outstretched arms of Hashem. God is the God of refuge for the Jewish people as well. Either to run to God's hands and say, Hashem, please protect us. Beg for his protection, beg for his security, beg for his blessings, and most importantly, begs for his comfort. The other blinding choice, blinding because it has a lot of glitter of the Manhattan, Times Square lights flashing, neon lights flashing. The other blinding choice is assimilation, when the mind conspires with the heart to escape. All of a sudden, the Jewish identity, maybe she will hide that, push it down, something, hide that. Don't go after that. Stay away from that Jewish identity. But where does it go? We hide it by the mask of secularism, and we become like very big fish. I know science. I'm a big fan of science. Science is science. That's the deity of secular world is science. We worship science. It's our problem. We worship human beings. After all, even though science, like I said, Chacham Goyim, Tamin, we have to believe that there's wisdom in the Goyim. We don't have to worship it to the point that it's infallible, and therefore we see a book from Peter Kurtz, who is admittedly one of the biggest atheist humanists around. He has his magazines that he puts out all the time. It's unbelievable, and he's the spirit behind the magazine, also called, the one he has out, it's called Humanism. That's the name of humanism, it's secular humanism. No God, and they're the ones, some of those, like I was telling you before, they talk about the God that they don't believe in more than you can ever imagine. You know what I mean? So that allows them immediate gratification in a certain sense. But let's just remember one thing. Let's not deny one thing. Secularism is the author. I'm not talking about religion now. Secularism is the author also of some of the most pernicious formulas of social ills. When we talk about all this voting on different issues in society, right? I mean, there are ways the Torah has ways to deal with these things, without killing people, without keeping people living your own self, who you are. But secularism develops all kinds of ways to perpetuate the problem and live with the problem now and perpetuate it by liberating people from their own conscience in a certain sense. Okay? Nobody worries about protecting the people who don't have their proper scruples and morals that were from the time of Har Sinai. They worry about the guys who don't have it. So how do we protect their rights? What about? I remember when I was had a meeting with the Governor Cuomo about this with a few other people in Muncie. One time we were talking about this, and he of course was anti. Oh, he was pro. I'm sorry, the other one was when Pataki was anti. But Pataki, we were talking about the issue about like the law, the pass law that like you have to allow someone to rent from you. You can't turn down somebody who's not one person likes women because of that reason alone. You can't turn him down from renting an apartment in your house. So I asked. So obviously, Pataki was fighting against that, but the people were screaming in the room, as they always do, hollering, "Come on!"
Somebody that has like a criminal record, or
no. Somebody who just lives that life. And I said, "Well, what?" So, there are people who have like little kids in the house. Mm-hmm. They're living in fear the whole time. How do we protect those rights? Like, why are you just focusing on the rights of? Do they have rights, or people? If they're blessed to have children, so the blessing is good enough, and forget about their rights. Their responsibility, not just rights, it's responsibility they have to parent the children the way they're supposed to parent the children. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I don't want to get into the issue, it's wrong or right, but they want to protect their children from what they think they should. Secularism and science discounts the essence of neshama. That doesn't exist. There's not a neshama to worry about, so we don't care about neshama, right? We don't care about that. Soul is unimportant. The ineffable existence of life undefined, because to know it is to admit that God exists. To know about the neshama, the soul, what it is to admit to God. And to admit to God means that all of thou shalt nots in the Torah are not just there to deprive, to control, or to influence. They're to protect our neshama. They're not just to control our soul, but to protect our neshama. Once you believe in a God and you believe in the soul, truly, then what are the thou shalt nots for? To protect our neshama. It's there to really give it a good antibiotic, a zest to protect it. It should never get. Not just the great thing is, we may not know it because we're in the bodies. The body says, no, it's not there for that. But the neshama knows that that's the only thing, the only spiritual immunization is the thou shalt nots. We need to allow the neshama to fulfill its yearning, to return to its spirituality by its very connection in each one of our mind and hearts to Hashem. Just as the positive mitzvahs are there to nurture the neshama by satisfying the innate you have with you when you're born, innate the DNA hunger that you have, satisfying that hunger sends a profound message of acknowledgement to the neshama that its divine request will be fulfilled. So I'm screaming, Shuli, Eli, Yanni, come on, let's put on film today. Come on. And then you shake your head and you say, okay, I'm going to do that. I mean, you're telling your neshama, I know that I have a neshama, and I have to fulfill that neshama.
And the Shefer always talks about the voice inside you.
Right. And that's simple, the neshama, right?
Yeah.
Shlomo Melech, Solomonic wisdom. Just as the Torah describes Moshe as Onav Mikol Adam, the Torah describes Shlomo as Chacham Mikol Adam. That's the exact word in Tanakh. And it says there was nobody in him before like him, and nobody will ever be like him again. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, right? The prophecy, nobody was like him, and nobody will be like him. Chachman, wisdom, nobody was ever. Moshe Rabbeinu was not a Chacham like Shlomo. Imagine. It sounds like what? You look at Tanakh, you'll see. Look at yourself at the beginning of Shlomo, 3 years old, and see what he was told. Nobody was b'fanav and la'achrav. They were not wise as Shlomo. The yearning of the neshama is never satiated. Okay, what is that about? Let's take an example from because Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei, "V'hanefesh loy timolei." When you feel angst, You don't know. You know, you think it's some kind of thing. You just have to like sleepwalk or take a pill. Just like you're anxious. There's so much absence of neshama fulfillment. But it could be. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a psychiatrist. I don't claim to. I feel that sometimes, a lot of the time, it's just a word, it's a prophetic word. It's talking about chacham ekal adams. Chacham is adam minavi. It's more than prophecy. Chacham was greater. He said, "Bahar nefesh." In Ecclesiastes, in the best part of his wisdom, which is the late years of his life, bahar nefesh leib Tropper. Soul not filled. It's not satiated. The neshama is not satiated. Then he said, feeling all this kind of angst, anxiety, all kind of different things you feel like. You look back and you see, what did I accomplish? What didn't I accomplish? So much, and then you have all the other things that the magazines talk about, conditions of things. Once upon a time, I used to call somebody saying that he really had an issue with something, issue with eating. So it's a problem. He decided, it's the word problem. Why is it a problem? It's an issue. Why can't it be a problem? We made something wrong, and therefore, as we say, that they have changed the word to issue. A problem is a problem.
It's like now there's no more mental.
Right, it's challenged and this and
retarded or something.
Yeah, it's challenged.
Yeah.
Let's take an example from the science of psychoanalysis, if it's a science. Freud did not believe in religion. He was an atheist, as you know. Actually, Freud wrote, there's a book from Peter Gay, or a book, The Godless Jew. So right in the beginning, in the first third of the book, he writes that Freud said, anybody who asks, because Freud was an existentialist atheist, anybody who asks the purpose of life, right? Chaim Lobov says, true. What is your duty in life? Anybody asks that question to Freud, his lashon is sick. Why? Because in the world of existentialism, existence precedes purpose. And Hashem put you in the world, then you got to swim and find out where's the rock, where's your island, right? We know that Hashem put us in the world for a reason. We have a reason. Hashem gave us a purpose, and then He created us after that. But His world, you're sick. A person, why? Because He says you have to create your own purpose. Freud says, "What do you mean with your purpose in the world? What kind of stupid that question then? You create your own obligation. You create your own mission. You create your own life." So we're not going to ask but
all for what purpose?
What? Oh, that's a collective purpose. We'll see them in. That's more generic. Generic purpose. We'll see them in. Okay. So, he didn't believe in religion, and the founding fathers of early psychology did not either. None of them. Talmudim, Maslow, and all these other people did not. And even somebody people like Eric Fromm, who already were Jewish, and they started off from. Eric Fromm started off from. He had a place called Torah therapy. He had a place with his wife. They got divorced, and then there's a whole story with. I'm not going to go into right now, but and then he would I have the New York Times the day in 1980 when he died, talking about how he asked for it to be cremated before he died. Only an atheist can do that, right? But God's eternity is not challenged by what we call in the book of. We call in Gulliver's Travels Lilliputians. Right? Remember the Lilliputian people? Lilliput held down the Gulliver, the big giant. Right? That God's greatness also is not tied down by like Lilliputians. I mean, it's a joke, right? It's like Samson being tied down on a string and he pulls it like that. I mean, what And modern psychology is blossoming with with new material about the value of religion in one life. Now psychology talks about there is some kind of the infusion of religion in life just makes your life more robust.
A sense of purpose.
Exactly, as you said. Jews is Jews and others are others. The road less traveled by Peck, Peck. He says, he's one example of many. I am never completely satisfied with the words of David HaMelech. He says in Mishlei, Shlomo Melech, L'chol Psorei Marpei, that Torah is a cure for all illnesses. Now, Rabbi Tropper, don't be naive. Okay, that's not an argument. Don't be naive. That thou shalt not doesn't prove anything. By escaping behind the mask of secularism, science, or anything else, you allow yourself to make the weakest parts of your being become dependent. You join a religion of weakness. Don't join a religion of weakness. It serves to reinforce spiritual impotence. I can't go to shul. I can't daven. I don't have an appetite for davening. I can understand somebody saying, I don't have an appetite for davening, and I really need to work on that. But to go to be busy, to say, to excuse me, I'm busy with the whole world and all the materialists are going to have a deal coming, they're flying, and they're going, and Jackie Mason and saying, coming and going, and getting, and that spiritual impotence is no reason. It's unfortunate that you are experiencing when you totally disconnect.
It's the most important meaning of the day.
Exactly. Now, the most important meaning of the day, as Ellie pointed out, does not mean you spend most occupied with that. For example,
you make the best of that time.
Right. Yeah. But let's get a practical example. I'm going to ask this to Sully, because Sully, I want Sully to highlight this point to us. Yom Kippur, we're sitting in shul.
Mr. Gelb.
We're sitting in shul, Yanni, on Yom Kippur, right? And it's now 10 o'clock in the morning, and then it's 12 o'clock, and it's 1 o'clock. Shki is 5:30. 1 o'clock. And then next half hour again. It's only
2 minutes.
They cut it down. It's 15 minutes, but it's only because we cut it down to the lowest.
It's getting dark outside.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not. It's still a little. I still see a little light outside.
But I stopped shuli in the street in the middle of the week, and I asked him, "Shuli, is food the most important thing in your life?" He said, "Me? What are you talking about, me? Come on." Right? Doesn't mean the thing that you're occupied your mind with that is right now to you. I'm sorry. It means when you're busy with the food, that's what's on your mind. That's what's so busy in your mind. But however, when somebody has in their day thinking about when I'm free and when can I go have the Torah in my life, it's the exact same thing. The most important thing is life. Even though he's not occupied with it, he's doing business. But I'm going to have a half hour to learn tonight. I'm going to have an hour to learn tonight. I'll have that hour to say Tehillim tonight, whatever. So his spirituality is what gives him his life. The Kihem Chayenu is the infusion of oxygen that sustains him throughout the day, though it may not be his occupation. Today. The whole persona, your choice, I promise, your choice to escape from your real self and make you feel a fictitious feeling of greatness. Meaning, here wrote a book called Escape from Freedom. Escape from Freedom is about people who are drugged, inebriated, intoxicated in certain beliefs, and then they go into the beliefs of like Olam Hazi, like this, to have fun, pleasure, and because they can't take the pain of everything else in life. So that's not escaping; it's escaping from the pain of the world.
It's like it's running away from your problems.
Escaping to means, I'm suffering, so I'm escaping to means to liberate myself. I'm down to Hashem. Eric Fromm took religion. He goes religion. He goes something else. He resolve the problem. But it's escaping from is not escaping to. And escape from freedom is the one that when you escape from these things into going into, God forbid, the wrong thing, you're escaping from, not escaping to. You're running away from life. You're running away from it. Because I run to the other kind of intoxicating drugs. Materialism, pleasure, day and night. So, we talked about this is going on in the Neshama. This is the Neshama is thinking. Neshama is telling you, you're not going into satisfy yourself. You're running away from something. The group and the costume is saying, no. Look at the gorgeous I am. Look how gorgeous I am.
And that's myself. Sometimes in the morning, a person says, I have things to take care of. Let me, do some work and then I'll daven. So I find if I do something like that, I have tremendous anxiety until I actually daven. And once I daven, I feel now I can go on with the day. Right. I feel relaxed. I feel calm. There's like a certain thing that's in your mind, and until you actually daven,
you can't describe it. Right. Okay. Value-free societies, not every society is value-free, but value-free societies have impregnated the minds of our children with wrong morals and ethics, or fake morals and ethics. They're plastic. They're ersatz, as you call them. Ersatz is like a weak, cheap exchange for real things. It's like a really, you heard the word, ersatz concept of ethics and morals. It's not real. Living a Torah life, ethical life, is satisfying to the neshama. Which neshama? was deposited with each one of us by the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Right? That neshama. That's what the number of years that we'll be blessed to be in this world. We want to only be remembered. We want to continue our life carrying our soul to eternal existence. You ever ask the question to yourself? Do I want to be a period? I want to be a comma. What do I mean? Very simple. I once gave a lecture on this one time.
A period
Like
is the end and the comma.
Do you want to say, Yaakov died, it's over. Or Yaakov died and is an and, goes to Olam Haba. So for some people, death is a period. It's over. Life's out forever. Some people, life is a comma. And he died and then he goes on. So you have the choice to make that, eternal existence, or you can make yourself a period of life. It becomes the latest to remember. Oh, you remember, Zulu, you remember this, what do you remember? He remembers, he's here, we don't see him. In fact, one time there's a cute story where I put in there, I must tell you this. I'm emphasizing about the neshama, it's cute, because this came to me, as I was saying, it's irrelevant to what we're talking about, but I must tell you the story. Hutner was sitting at a bar mitzvah. Hutner's a Chon Levrah. Sitting at a bar mitzvah, and grandfather from the bar mitzvah boy was Hasidish, gave a whole lecture. And he says, not saying that the Zohar and Pashas Mishputim says that the neshama of the grandparents come to join the family at a simcha. So, Rabbi Putnam gave a clap on the table. All Kohanim, please leave.
Like that. This one, right?
All right, just the point. You try to make like why are we focusing on these things? There's more things focusing on what the kid should be doing in his life. We kind of get it's esoteric, and that's focusing on the exoteric, right? You have to focus on the exoteric, not necessarily the esoteric things about life. It may be true, but still, where's the focus? So I knew someone would like that one. But it's officially one point. In order to achieve the goals mentioned, taking one's own moral inventory is imperative. Do you do that? Now, last week we spoke about that sefer that was mimicking, mimicking that sefer. Purim, the holiday that the rabbis tell us will stay with us past the end of time, is the holiday of masks. We drink and intoxicate ourselves, and from the mouth comes the happiness and joy of a life unmasked. I know with me, Hey Purim,
I like that.
I cry about myself, I about my Talmid when I used to tell this Talmud, I know this hurts you and that hurts you. It was an event that Muncie would kind of join me in, and just everybody it was like an Yom Kippur. It was Yom Kippur. It was like an Yom Kippur. And
it has similar significance in a sense, like
right, exactly. Especially if you do it the right way. I think so.
I always feel like I
so what? Yeah, that's it. The unmasking, the neshama is unmasking.
So
the costume. Get it off. This is what I'm here. I'm under the costume. Real self's under. That's what's really heavy. He says, we cry the tears of drunken joy over knowing that all is a prelude to the greatest of experiences. The soul in Olam Haba. One of our tenets of beliefs, 13 principles, is that belief in Olam Haba. All the personal pain, collective pain, that robbed us of life will be replaced in so much greater way. These were the songs of joy sung in Purim. Even in Buchamul, where walking cadavers echoed the joy of man with only one possession that we have. That special possession was the handwritten promise up to his people, his friends, his comrades. Samachenu, the Baruch Hu will make us happy, equal days of our affliction and pain. That's what we.
Amen.
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 Bless you.
For some, time is the excuse to lose sense of life by postponing the response to the inner call. I want to share with you a little story. One great man. Listen to the story. This story is very meaningful. Okay, I want you to have 30 years. Everybody put on that 30 year. One great man once took his son to the top of a mountain in the Middle East. And it was the day's end. It was Shkia. The darkness was moving in, overcome the bright sun, rays of the sun, challenging the light rays of the sun. And this man asked his son, Shalom, what do you see? Shalom, son, says, Abba, I see an incredibly beautiful sunset. That's the mask. What is it what father says? Shalom, my boy, that's the mask. What you're really seeing is the world turning behind the mask of sunset. That's what you're really seeing. Okay, you're seeing sunset. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful experience. But then when people like Ellie deposit there, I should start introspecting, thinking, what does that mean? It's a beautiful sunset. That the world is turning. We're not here. We're there. Not here. We're there. Somewhere else. Behind the mask of the sunset, make it look nice, but the world is moving. So, the mask of Purim is to remind us all the time. Purim is, you must remember, is time when sharing with those spiritual, is utilized through Shlach Manas, exhibited through Shlach Manas, giving of the presence of Purim, Matanot Lavyonim, giving to the poor beneficiaries of these gifts, and not the recipients of the gifts. The beneficiaries of the gifts are not the same as the recipients of the gift. The givers are the recipients of this gift. But it's masked with giving. It's masked. The recipient is masked with the act of giving. I'm a recipient? Why am I? See the show now, I see it feels so good. Wow, the show feels so terrific. Right, remember that paper was wrote about the Nosan, right? Nosan is spelled above. The Nun, Vinas above, Nun, Saf, Nun, and backwards it's spelled the same way. Nosan spelled both ways, the same thing. Nun, Saf, Nun, Nun, Saf, Nun. You give, you get back, it comes, it goes to you. You think you're giving, but you're really getting. Yeah, Hashem help us all.
When I actually give something, I feel a lot more positive and happy.
Right,
than
and you should. Baruch Hashem, Hashem is talking, that's why Baruch Hashem. Hashem, by allowing the unfortunate to Hashem's, you allowing Hashem you allowing the unfortunate to Hashem's gift, into Hashem's gift is to you, you will inspire a blessing from Hashem to yourself, the future opportunities to have the power of the alchemist, right? Better the book who could turn money into eternity. My fellas, that was my discussion today about this masks and costumes Purim. This was given. This thing was given in the West Side. Lecture given in 1992. And I found this little old notebook somewhere in my basement. It said that who could I share it with? That's meaningful to me. And I felt that I wish Yaakov was here, but he wasn't here. But
question is that